This episode of Legacy Curious is brought to you by Legacy Protectors. Customize insurance strategies for business owners and families who aspire to create a lasting legacy. Hey there, and welcome to Legacy Curious, the show where we explore what it really means to protect, grow, and pass on everything you've worked so hard to build. I'm your host, David Gravelle, life insurance strategist, business legacy coach, and founder of Legacy Protectors. Thanks for joining me as I sit down to speak with the bold thinkers, entrepreneurs, and everyday visionaries who are turning their values into lasting impact in business, in life, and across generations. Whether you're building a business, preparing for retirement, or simply thinking about what kind of legacy you want to leave behind, you're in the right place. Today, we welcome Leslie Clark. Leslie's career path has been anything but linear, and that's exactly what makes her a powerhouse. With experience spanning education, tech, agriculture, and operations, she's built a reputation for stepping into complex environments, adapting quickly, and getting things done. Leslie has done everything from building a private school from the ground up to leading operations for a regenerative agriculture company. Along the way, she's managed teams, untangled messy systems, and delivered results under pressure. Whether she's training non-tech users on software they never thought they'd grasp, or juggling a dozen moving parts behind the scenes, Leslie thrives in the spaces where clarity and momentum are needed most. But she's not just a strategist, she's a doer. She's proficient in tools like Canva and InDesign for creating sharp, on-brand graphics, and she's hands-on with website platforms like Wix, Squarespace, and WordPress. Need help with QuickBooks, Gusto, Dubsado, Notion, HubSpot, or a well-run calendar? She's got it covered. And if there's a tool she hasn't used yet, give her 5 minutes. She'll not only figure it out, she'll show you how to use it better. Today, Leslie works with small business owners and entrepreneurs who need a capable, resourceful partner to step in and make things work, whether that's for a day, a season, or somewhere in between. Let's welcome Leslie to the show and get to know her and her legacy. Well, welcome Leslie Clark to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great, David. How about yourself?
You know, I'm having a fantastic day, and I'm really enjoying the fact that you're here with me. So thank you for joining us. I'm looking forward to getting to know you.
Of course. I'm excited to talk to you.
Well, great. Well, you know, on this podcast, we start in your background because we want to get to know you first. I think that's really important for our audience to get a sense of who you are. And it starts usually in your childhood. So tell us about where you grew up and went to school.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Weatherford, Texas, so just a little bit outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Spent most of my childhood years and high school years there. And, you know, kind of came back there right in early adulthood as well. But yeah, I spent my life partially in the country where my parents' house was, and then, you know, partially kind of in the suburbs-ish is what Weatherford is a little bit country and a little bit suburb.
Yeah, so you've made your life there then too, because you still live in Texas now, right? You're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Yeah, still in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah, good. And so what was it like growing up in Texas? Tell us about what's it like to be a Texan in your version of Texas, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, I was an 80s kid. So, I mean, you know, grew up kind of coming in when the street lights came on and that sort of thing, out riding bikes with my brothers and, you know, doing all kinds of shenanigans out with friends and things like that. I grew up dancing. So spent a lot of time in dance classes and, you know, competing and doing a variety of things there. I did do some clogging, which is a traditional, you know, Texas sort of thing that maybe not everybody does in other states. But other than that, I really wasn't overly, you know, Texan in any way, shape, or form. That really wasn't my vibe. I, you know, occasionally may have done some Rocky jeans just to, like, you know, fit in with the cowboy culture that's around here in Weatherford. But yeah, other than that, no, I mean, like, say, very open and free childhood, went around, you know, hanging with friends and doing a variety of different things, dancing when I wasn't in school, but was a very studious type person. I was somebody that really excelled in school, did well in school, and, went from high school thinking that I was going to be a teacher, actually, the rest of my life, because I liked school and because I liked
Sure.
doing all of those things. And then my path has kind of wound around from there. But yeah, no, I was a quite a good student, and enjoyed that part of things. But that's actually part of my journey is kind of unlearning a bit of the rote memorization type things and really getting
Sure.
into critical thinking pieces as opposed to lists of things, essentially.
Sure. And how did you come across that type of personal knowledge about yourself? And, what was that journey like? Because I'm sure out of school, you had a real, sense of who you wanted to be, like you mentioned. And so maybe talk us through some of that early career and, what you learned and what your challenges were.
Yeah, absolutely. So, going through college, still kind of had that same path of, being a really great student. And, I did really well in college, and I, checked all the boxes, did really well in student teaching and all of those things. And then started as a teacher almost day one, right after graduation. I started the week after I graduated from college in a teaching position. And what I was noticing, I taught special education. So I taught a lot of kids with learning challenges. I taught some kids with some more severe challenges and things like that. But what I noticed is that the school system really isn't designed for everybody. It's designed for a very specific group of people. And I happen to have been one of those people that did really well in the system, but that doesn't mean that everyone else had the same experience. And so, as part of my learning as I was teaching, I was starting to realize there were some challenges there on the way that, the school system was, the way that the school system was running. That led me about 10 years into my public school teaching career to actually start my own school. So I started a private school and ran things very much from an individual education perspective. So looking at what each child that came to me needed and working on a plan to help them achieve what their individual goal is. Because, that was part of my challenge as a teacher, was knowing that there were some kids in my classroom, even the ones that have learning challenges and things like that. They are some of the most brilliant people, and they have great skills over here, but that's just not what school's testing. School's testing math or science or English, but their skills were amazing in these other areas. And so my goal was to get those individual learners to have a plan that makes them excel specifically, as opposed to what the system rewards. So did that with some friends. It was actually one of those things. We were sitting out on a playground one day, and some friends and I went, let's start a school. And it was a joke. And that joke turned into an actual business plan, which then turned into an actual building with actual children in it. And so it was one of those really cool times where we took an idea and brought it to fruition. We had a 501c3. We did all of those things. So that was my first venture into business itself, was running that school, helping with HR, helping with obviously everything you could possibly imagine, because there were three of us and we're trying to do all the different facets.
Yeah, it sounds like a busy time. Yeah.
Yeah. So learned the operations and all of those kinds of things. So that was, like I say, that was the first foray into business in general. And then following that, I went into the business world and started working for an ed tech company as a client services manager, doing things of that nature. And, as I started with all of this, what stood out to me and what jumps out is how much commonality there is even between education and business. We don't think of those two things as having similarities, but just like there's kids who don't fit well in the traditional school box, there are also adults who don't do well in the traditional corporate sector and the traditional way of doing things. And I'm finding that there's a lot of entrepreneurs actually that are seeking that alternative path. Things didn't work well for them in the adult sector either. So they're moving into entrepreneurship, doing things that they love, that make sense to them, that, they are able to thrive in. And so I'm now servicing those entrepreneurs. And I feel like it's a path that came from what I did previously and is kind of intersecting at the moment to what I'm doing now.
Yeah, well, that's great. We're going to talk about that in a second, but that's our audience here. I try to reach business owners, specifically ones that are thinking obviously about their legacy and planning and executing a plan. But everyone's on a different journey and they come from different paths, and you got to meet them where they're at, right? And so I think that's also what I'm hoping to do here is, connect with the people that find value and others in different ways, frankly. So, let's talk a little bit more about, what you learned through that experience. Like, what did you take away from, because you're not doing that now, right? You don't manage and run a school or teach.
Yep.
You've changed into a new business model and a new business offering. So maybe talk us through, what that looked like, why, and how are you delivering that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, from a school perspective, obviously, it is a huge challenge to run a school, to get your funding together, to make sure that everything is, always operating in the plus side. And so, as we discovered that that was not really what we were able to continue doing long term, we had to make pivots and we had to make changes. So, as I was working through, like say, obviously just needing a job in general, so went into the business sector to do all of that. But transitioned eventually, and like say this is several years later, transitioned eventually into being a virtual assistant so that I had more time available for my kids. So I was working part-time as a virtual assistant, became a virtual assistant for a rancher, and she was running her family's ranch as a business manager and needed additional services to help her with spreadsheets and budgeting and all of the things that go with that. So I served her in that capacity. Again, as we were talking, seems to be a theme throughout my life. We were talking one day and she's like, you know what? I've got all these rancher friends who also need the same service. So we then established a business serving the virtual assistant needs for ranchers and matching virtual assistants to those ranchers. So kind of transitioned over into that side. And like say, it seems like a winding path that has no connection, but really it was all, all interconnected. Everything, one thing led to another. And,
Sure, you're building on the same skill sets and that
yeah,
same
yeah,
passion
for
to
sure.
serve. And, it sounds like you're learning more about yourself and what your capabilities are and where you're most valued. And your market found you, it sounds like, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And things just kind of, like say, as they tend to do, all things kind of align when they're supposed to. And,
Right. Right.
it just kind of lined up in the way that it needed to. I met a lot of amazing connections through my rancher businesses, doing all those things. In fact, several of those are still my biggest referrals now. In this current business, because we've had a relationship, we kept a relationship over time. And yeah, I mean, it's just everything. One thing leads to another. I call it the hummingbird theory. It's Elizabeth Gilbert's theory that she talks about is hummingbirds versus jackhammers. And hummingbirds are those people who take little bits from everything that they do in their life and deposit it into the next section, as opposed to jackhammering down into the same field. Somebody who might be an accountant their entire career and that's all they
Yeah.
do. And, and both are very necessary in the world, both are very
Sure.
needed in the world. But I'm much more of a hummingbird and have, kind of grabbed from little things and deposited to the next.
Yeah, guilty as charged too. I will say I'm a hummingbird who likes to jackhammer in some places, but
Right.
for the most part, I really enjoy exploring new aspects of my personality, and this is why this podcast is here today. Is that it's a new way for me to express what it is that I've learned and to share, through other people's experiences with our audience, what's available to them, right? And hopefully
Exactly.
they'll hear some of the great messages on best practices, and they'll learn from the mistakes that we've made, and reach out to the people that are here. So let's talk a bit about your business, and I'm going to let you say the name first, and we're going to talk about it because it is one of the first things that drew me to want to talk to you is the name of your business. So go ahead and tell us that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my business name is GYST, GYST, and GYST stands for Get Your Shit Together. So I work with entrepreneurs as a virtual business manager.
Yeah. So again, it's just it cuts through all of the noise to exactly what you do. I think it's just a fantastic branding and marketing strategy, just to tell you what you do quickly, to get a clear message on what your services are. And why don't you maybe talk a bit more about what it looks like? What does it look like to get someone else's shit together?
Yeah, absolutely. So as business owners, especially as solo business owners or somebody that maybe is working on a 1 or 2 person team, We have all the hats on, right? We're trying to be the graphic designer and the web designer, and we're trying to manage email and calendars and all of the different things. So I act as that middleman for you, that third party accountability partner, and we make a plan on exactly what your business is struggling with. What are the things, the pain points that you need to address to help you feel more successful in your business? So we take those pain points and we make a plan. And I take on as many of those tasks as I can. I specialize in business manager for a day services because sometimes it's super helpful to do a high focus day. So we take all of those, we put them on an agenda, and we try to just check as many things off as possible, where I am doing as many of those as we can. Some of it we have to kind of body double. And, I'm working with you and helping you research or helping you look up pricing on something or whatever that happens to be. But yeah, I mean, essentially businesses are businesses. And yes, we all are in a variety of different industries. There's a variety of different things that everybody does, but everybody has some sort of regulation they're trying to follow, some sort of paperwork they have to submit, some invoicing, some, POs and all of that kind of thing. Everybody has those sort of things. So while we're all very different, there's a lot that's in common. And so knowing those skills to help everybody is super helpful.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about what that looks like. So
Sure.
it's once a month that you get together, and is there a chance to consult with you first before you get to work on the things that, because I think it not only the services you provide, but the advice that you give sounds like part of the service too, right? Where they're asking you for your opinion, they're bouncing ideas off of you as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I have several different things going on, right? So I have monthly retainers. I have clients that I work with throughout the month. So we work every day on a variety of different
Okay.
things. We're emailing back and forth, and they're on a monthly retainer service. But
Got
I have others who might come to me and be like, I cannot do monthly retainer right now, but I have a lot that I need to get done. So maybe they do one day, and then
Okay.
they wait another couple weeks, another couple months, and say, I need that other day again so I can keep going. Maybe you say, I'm going to do this once a month and have a high focus day. And that's just the day I get my shit done that day. So there's several different ways to do that. But yeah, so when you sign up and say, I want to use this service, what I'll do is ask a variety of different questions about what your pain points are. Where are the things that you're really struggling with? And then I'll take a look at all of that, come up with an agenda and send it to you ahead of time. Say, this is what I'm thinking. These are the things that I'm guaranteeing we're going to get done in this day. Does this look accurate to you? Are there changes that we need to make? That way we come into that day with a super focused list. These are the checklist items. These are what we're going to get done. These are the things I'm guaranteeing to deliver to you by the end of the day. Same thing happens with my monthly retainer services. I do everything on a deliverable basis. So, if you're wanting calendar management, you're wanting, whatever it is, we outline all of that from a deliverable perspective. And then those are the things that I'm going to get done that month for you.
Great. So, how do they get started? I'm assuming going to your website at gystbusiness.net is a good
Absolutely.
first step, right? And then from there, they'll just fill out a contact sheet on there. I'm sorry, I'm on your website now.
No, you're all good. So there
Yeah.
are two different ways to do that. The first way is if you just want to book a call, maybe you're kind of curious, but you're not sure you're ready to make that happen right now. You can click the button that says I'm interested, but want to chat first. That'll allow you to book a 30-minute call with me. Absolutely free, of course, just to have a
Sure.
conversation, see if it's something you want to do, something you don't want to do. If you are ready to book, you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. You click that I'm ready to book section. It puts you through a little bit of a more extensive form. After that form is completed, if you're saying I'm ready to go, I'll send you a more extensive questionnaire that then will give you all of the questions that you need to come up with what we're going to work on that day. I'll send you back information with exactly how that's going to look. We then, book a time, you pay your dollars, and we get going.
Okay, great. So, what does success look like for you in this business? Is there growth in the future? How do you know that your hummingbird efforts here have paid off?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's helping as many entrepreneurs as I possibly can, right? And I'm only one person. If I was to do a business manager for a day service for the rest of the year and I did one 365 days, that would be a lot. That would be a lot to do. But eventually, obviously, what I want to do is be able to have others who are doing these same services. So I'm helping run the business itself, but there are others who are doing these business manager for a day services. One thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of people who are looking for this type of work, online work, whether it be, and with a more flexible schedule. There's a lot of moms, there's a lot of, teachers during the summer, things of that nature that are looking for this type of work. So part of what I'm hoping to do is to not only be able to be successful in doing what I'm doing for myself, but have others who are able to do this as well.
Okay, and they can contact you. People that would want to do this type of work for you or with you can contact you the same way, right? To have a conversation through the website.
They can, and I will keep them updated when I'm ready to do that. Not quite ready to jump into that at the moment, but that's where I'm looking as far as legacy is concerned. Is to leave that down the road, is to have others that are also doing the same service.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, that gets us to our $1 million question then. What is it that you're trying to build and be remembered for, and what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind, not only professionally, but, personally, if you could write it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with being a hummingbird type person, I know that it's a winding path that I'm leaving behind, but I hope that inspires others to realize that their path can also be winding. You don't have to have things follow a linear fashion that is, one thing your whole entire career. And if you hate something you're doing, you just have to stick it out till retirement. I want people to be inspired that that's not the way that you have to live your life. You can live it on this path. And yes, it's going to be ups and downs and inner circles and all kinds of stuff, but it can be really beautiful and a really positive way to live your life. There's two different methods to do so. So that's from a personal standpoint, that's what I would like to leave. From a business standpoint, I'd like to leave the legacy of a successful female-owned business, and one that was done in a way that honored my own time and was not grinding to the point of exhaustion. So showing other women entrepreneurs that we can do this. This is something that we can do successfully, but we can also do it sustainably and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in the process.
Well, that's great. Fantastic. And, this is our first interview with you. We'd love to have you come back on and teach us about some specific topics that you're an expert on, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur and, some of the ways that you're able to impart some of your wisdom to the next generation or the people that are, that are our age that are still reinventing themselves, because there are some people on this podcast who have lived a corporate life and are transitioning. So they may be maybe older in gray hairs, but young in running their own businesses. So,
sure.
we look forward to that. Well, thanks for joining us, Leslie. I really appreciate your time today, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future.
Great. Thanks so much, David.
Thanks so much for spending time with us today on Legacy Curious. I hope this conversation gave you some insight, encouragement, or just that little spark you needed to keep moving forward in your legacy journey. If you got value from today's episode, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone else who's building something that matters. And if you're ready to take the next step, protecting your business, planning for retirement, or passing on your legacy with purpose, head to legacyprotectors.life to schedule a conversation. Until next time, stay curious, stay committed, and keep building something worth passing on.